Suwan, brastar.
Suwan.
Uslaundrakwash.
Hello and welcome to PC World. My name is Hayden Dingman and today we are taking a look at the PC version of Far Cry Primal, which for whatever reason was delayed a week past the console versions. Reviews are already out, so I'm not going to talk too much about the game itself today, but I do want to talk about the quality of this port, given that that's been a concern with AAA games recently, not just from Ubisoft, but across the board. Tons of options, gameplay, interface, video, audio, a benchmarking tool if you're interested. I'm starting to think this might be a thing for Ubisoft now, given that both this and Rainbow Six Siege had benchmarking tools. It seems like the company is becoming more focused on those, which would be great because they're few and far between these days. In the gameplay menu, a couple of quality of life changes. Aim assist defaults to on. I would recommend shutting that off if you're using a mouse and keyboard. However, I would say leave melee assist on because the melee combat in this game is not that great and you could probably use the help. And I would also recommend turning off the search animations. There's a lot of crafting in Primal, and each time you search you go through a 2-second first-person animation. So if you want to keep your sanity and save literally minutes or hours over the course of your game, I would recommend turning that off. Anyways, video options, most important, and there's quite a bit to dig into. You can change your default graphics card, though I suspect that all of 3 people will use that option, but it's there if you want it. You've got resolution, refresh rate, VSync, window mode. You can jump into borderless windowed, which is always welcome, though I have had it crash twice, switching back and forth, so, you know, some bugs maybe. As you can see, I'm running the game on a 980 Ti, and I have everything maxed out. I'm hovering around 75, 70 frames per second for most of the game, though I've seen some stuttering in one dream sequence. And in the mornings, the game drops to around 50 frames per second, and then it normally jumps back up during the mid-afternoon. But if we jump back into the graphics settings for a second, there's a lot here. We've got textures, shadow, post effects, terrain, anti-aliasing, volumetric fog. I would expect most of these to have a pretty sizable effect on the frame rate, and I'm not seeing that. For instance, we have this scene here at Ultra running at 48 frames per second, and then the same scene on low running at 64 frames per second. I went through and I tweaked a lot of these settings down one at a time to see, you know, what frame rate we would get if I turned textures from high to normal, or if I turned shadows from ultra to low. And I expected to see some pretty hefty gains, and instead I got maybe 1 frame per second back. The only time that was not true was this geometry setting. If you tweak that down from ultra to low, you see pretty much all of the frames that we would get from changing the entire graphics quality down from ultra to low. As I said, in that scene we get 48 frames per second on ultra, 64 on low. If I put everything on ultra and I just turn the geometry down, we see the exact same jump from 48 up to 64. So a bit of an oddity. I would have expected more of these settings to matter, and I'm not really sure why they aren't. But yeah, I guess if you're having problems, tweak the geometry first and then go from there. And that's basically it. The advanced panel is mostly just a hiding place for the field of view scaler. I put mine at 90. It defaults to 75, but you know, that's very zoomed in and very console-esque. So I would suggest zooming out to 90 or further, but that's all, you know, personal preference. And that's basically it. So thanks for watching today for PC World. I am Hayden Dingman, and this has been Far Cry Primal.